Yo, yo, yo. What's up, y'all? How y'all feeling? How y'all living? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? I know we haven't been live on YouTube in a minute. I hope everybody's doing well. Good to see y'all. What's up with it, Malik? How you doing, my brother?
Peace, peace, King. What's going on with you?
Oh, not much, dog. Just got done whipping up a little dinner.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir. How's everything going with you?
Well, next weekend I actually got something on called the Fatherhood Monologues.
Okay. What's
And
tell me about that? What's that?
yeah, so it was roughly I want to say roughly about 3 years ago. It was a group of like ten fathers, black fathers came together to
Mm-hmm.
really talk about our experience of being fathers or being fathered.
Mm.
And then we put it into like a spoken word. So with that, right, we did a performance at a local college, and then the pandemic hit. This was like
Mm-hmm.
February 2020, but we did some virtual stuff, and then we eventually got back together. But now four of us kind of stuck with it, and we do some traveling, and we had wound up getting a grant where now we actually are in Hartford, Connecticut, with this group called Heartbeat Ensemble, and we're
Mm-hmm.
performing. So we had like the weekend. So we got like four performances over the weekend, and we're selling tickets. And yeah, man, like it's dope. I just came from rehearsal.
That's good. How long y'all got a rehearsal for?
So it's interesting. So it's 3 hours, 3 or 4 days a week, because
Mm.
we're adding some theatrical things. So we have like this executive director, he has assistants, there's lighting, there's um not necessarily like theater, but like there is that, like, we're tweaking things, and there's conversations, and there's things being added besides just your spoken word.
Mm, okay. And how can people attend that? Where is that going to be at, and how can they attend that again?
Yeah, so we were talking about it, but we're not having a virtual option right now, but it's in Hartford, Connecticut. It's at Harpy Ensemble on Farmington Avenue, which is like a this like boutique theater that is just like a ton of history, and we're doing performances March 11th and 12th at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. And everybody's welcome. Bring the family, bring the kids. But I think what's most powerful about these stories is that, such as the four that we have right now, is that
Hmm.
everybody has like a different twist, right? That there's a difference in age, there's a difference in lived experience, and I think
Hmm.
that winds up making it extremely powerful. Because I know for me, I do two different segments about being a father to my son, one about being some stuff about being a father to my daughters, and then but there's one where a father's talking about how he believes sometimes fathers are treated like second class citizens
Mm.
in the eyes of DCF, and especially if the parents aren't together, or the struggles of like when your children grow older, and not trying to miss the small stuff on the way, or this or just legacy. Like one person talks about what his father taught him and what he's teaching his children.
That's good. That sounds like that's going to be a good event to go to. I'm surprised y'all not doing something like this on Father's Day, but it's still a
We
great event.
well, you got to think about this, right? It's Fatherhood 365. So we gonna get them.
Mm,
We
okay.
gonna get them. We actually doing something with We're also combining with Trinity Health out here, and we're doing these monthly because to be a father, you gotta be a man,
Hmm.
and we're doing these men's health initiatives now. So we're adding some of that, right? Like so with our performances, and as well in Newport, Rhode Island, myself and the founder, right, who put it together, but we all started at the same time, but he put it together.
Hmm.
Abdul, we're going to the New England Fatherhood Conference, and we're performing. And then I'm also doing a part on 1,000 books before kindergarten presentation.
Oh, damn. Hey, Malik coming out here with that pressure, dog. And for people who don't know Malik, Malik is a brother that we met while collaborating on the Black Men Summit. He actually just was featured on Wednesday episode of the Black Wealth Renaissance podcast.
Let's
We're
go.
speaking about business credit and ways that you can leverage things in your life. So I just want to say thank you for tapping in with us tonight. We've been doing some lives like every Thursday for the past 4 or 5 Thursdays now. But yeah, so everybody on YouTube, this is my dog Malik. I hope everybody's doing well. We are going to do a live tonight where we can just speak about some ways that you can make money in your business. We'll speak about some current events and stuff like that as well. What did you have anything in mind to start off with, Malik? If not, we can get into some things.
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, I want to say thank you for the opportunity, man. Like, look, I flew down to H-Town, you know what I mean?
Appreciate you.
And the good brother, Jalen met me out. We got some food, we grubbed, but I think the people came here for us to show up and drop gems.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's no other way but to start with. So for me, like I had a little something. I always got something on deck. So something that I believe, right, that all entrepreneurs should have is the opportunity to obtain capital, and how important that is in business. And sometimes we see the dream so vividly, but then the ability for us to understand the importance of obtaining capital and how it is possible for us to obtain capital if we're following the right steps, if we're sharing the right information, for us not just to like whimsically like throw it out there, but for us to apply and get approved, right? To know exactly what we're doing before we apply so that we can get approved. And that's what we really do with my team over at U Leverage Capital. And that's where I've been excited about our relationship and our partnership with Black Wealth Renaissance, because it's giving us a platform to provide that to more people. This access to funding, right? The options that we should be having, that so many times people come to me and say, I want a line of credit, because that's the only thing they've ever heard. Right. And I think for me, it's like, how can we diversify that? How can we help people know how to go ahead?
No, I was just about to say, I want to say something like with line of credit. So something that I'm very big on is being intentional with your words too. And in the English language, we have a lot of words that people think or interchangeable, but sometimes they're not. Like sometimes you have to be very specific with what you're saying. And I think like that line of credit thing is something specific too, because they might have heard somebody else explaining something else, but in their mind, it's like, oh, it's just a line of credit. So that's what I need to get.
Yes. And I think an LOC, a line of credit, like you can get that in multiple ways, right? Like you hear people talk about a HELOC, right? A home equity line of credit, right? The idea that you might be getting a line of credit from an institution like a bank or some other financial institution. But with that line of credit, you also need to make sure certain things are happening, right? Like, so one is that line of credit coming with a UCC filing? Is that line of credit coming with a PG, right? A personal guarantee. And when I mean a UCC filing, is that what you understand on the business side? I was just about to say,
what is that?
Yeah, talk to me on the business side, right? Like, see, I'll give you this. Personally, if I bought a stick of gum with my personal credit card, they're going to report. But what we know is that over 80% of cards, right? 80% of lending in general, right, does not show up on your business credit report to your business credit agencies. So when I say a UCC filing, is that when you're working with these banks, also understand there's always room to ask questions and negotiate. So when they're saying, if you do get approved for a line of credit, a question I want you to ask is, hey, is there going to be a UCC filing? Meaning, are you going to do a publicly notify everybody that you have a lien, that you have a line of credit out, right? And like look how I said, like a line or a lien,
Mhm.
Sometimes when we say lean, people see it a little bit differently, but like that notifying everyone else, other institutions, that they're lending you credit, and that can be a plus or a minus based on where you're going and what your strategic plan is. Then the next one, the
And
P.
this
Go ahead.
this is all under your business credit though profile, right? Not personal.
This is working specifically right now with your business, yes, and because everything else is they're filing it. They're like, hey, look, it's coming up under your personal consumer credit is coming
Mhm.
up, but under your business, right? Like I can give you some lending right now that you can get that can give you a B2B line of credit, but also understand, right, that line I can tell you isn't going to show up. I can then connect you with a different line of credit, and then that line of credit will absolutely show up, right, on your credit report and to other institutions, letting them know that they have lent you money.
I got you. Okay, so let's get into some of the pros and cons of allowing an institute or wanting an institute to either show or not show if you're being lent to.
Okay, perfect. So when you're thinking about building business credit and you're being intentional, then you
Mhm.
want that to happen, right? You want that to show up. So then now you can have something, and you want to make sure that they're showing up to one of the three, if not two of the three business credit agencies, being Duns and Bradstreet business, being Experian business, and Equifax business. The reason why is because if it doesn't show up right on your business credit report, then you cannot build business credit to then build a better credit mix. So then you can go ahead and get lending, because you need to show banks that your entity, not you, the business you started, right, has enough under its own name so that they will lend larger limits to. Now, that's the pro that you want, but you have to make sure that you're navigating and asking the right questions. Because I think I've said this before to people, is that I had a guy recently who was clearing for the last 2 years over $1 million, and he's paying on these vehicles, but these vehicles are not right. The money that he took out, the equipment loan that he took out for these vehicles was not coming up on his credit. That American Express card wasn't coming up on his credit. So what was coming up though was that he had something that he wasn't paying on time. So he had a 29 credit score.
A
And then
29 business credit
Paydex
score? Okay.
from your Paydex, which is simply not how much you're carrying, not all the other infographics, all the other information that the internal bank ratings, all the other stuff that banks are looking at. It's not looking at that. Your DMB, your Duns and Bradstreet number, that Paydex number is from 0 to 100, and it's simply, are you paying early? Are you paying on time? Are you paying late? Or are you never paying?
Damn. So yeah, 29. That's definitely terrible.
But here's my thing is that, right, I want to talk to my real estate people, especially right now. I get a lot of real estate people who come to me and they go, I really don't need business credit. I get a lot of real estate people who said, I don't even really need personal credit. My personal credit didn't look good. But it's short-minded of them.
I think that's very short-minded to say, as a real estate professional, to say you don't need business credit. That's crazy, because depending on what type of real estate transactions you're doing, if you're flipping, you want to get access to money as cheap as possible. We know what the terms and what some of the conditions are on hard money. If you can get access to business credit, why not go that way? And sometimes, you can't get high interest on business credit, lines of credit, or revolving credit and stuff like that. You can get high interest rates, but I think just for them to say that sounds very arrogant to think that way.
Well, I would say this. Have you ever met anybody in real estate who was like, right, who wasn't a little bit extra confident, or especially somebody winning? Right.
That's right.
It kind of come with it. And like I said, and I get it, because what they've done is they leverage relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a relationship with a lender. But the problem is, what happens when that relationship, or if that relationship goes sour? You don't have a backup plan, right? You don't have a plan to scale to do something bigger. Because what happens is that you're doing these flips, and then you're like, let me get into, maybe I want to borrow a couple properties. Well, how you going to refinance out that property? Right? Maybe I want to go ahead now, right? And you're doing well, and your portfolio is looking good, but now you want to go from residential to commercial. So now you're asking for an SBA loan, but the SBA loan is going to go off the 3 C's: cash, credit, collateral.
Collateral.
And that credit is going to be your personal credit, your business credit, and they're going to look at how well you're doing that, how mature it is, because that says a lot about who you are and what they're going to lend to you. Then they're going to look at, right, that cash flow in your business and that collateral. But I get it, because they're really focused on one of the 3 C's or 2 of the 3 C's, but they're not thinking right down the road.
And I kind of want to talk about something else you mentioned on here. You said the word credit mix and credit maturity. I just want to break those down as well. The credit mix is the type of credit that you have. Once again, it's like your revolving credit, your well, damn, why I can't think of the other type of accounts. There's revolving, there's lines of credit, there's
your installment loans.
Yeah, installment loans. I was thinking about that. I'm like, cars are in installment. You got your mortgages, things of that nature, right? All of those are different types of credit that you're having access to, and you want to make sure you have a good mix of those, because it shows that you're able to really handle business under different under different categories of credit, is what I'm gonna call it.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting, but like when I was younger in my 20s, right? Like in my early 20s, I had some revolving credit, right? I might have had like a little, like, holiday $5,000 loan or whatever it was at first. But my lending wasn't where it was, as in maybe, now, where you're like, okay, you might have a mortgage with some equity on it, right? Because they also can see how much you've paid. Right. Hey, look, you started off at 200,000, and now we see that your mortgage is 128,000. Okay, you got some equity there, right? That makes us feel a little bit more secure. Why?
Because now you have collateral.
Thank you. And we could put a lien on collateral. Right. So that's something that I want people thinking about, right? That, because if you have too much revolving credit, actually that can hurt you, because you need some, right? And what I mean by revolving is that you need at least 2 cards. And I preferably like over $10,000. But if you have at least 5,000 and aging, right? So we talk about the maturity of at least 2-3 years. 5 to 6 is great. 2 to 3 is okay, right? It's good. But 5 to 6 is when we're starting to really cook. And this is why it's so important for some of us, right? I was meeting with a guy from Chase about a month ago up in Boston, and he was telling me Chase is, and now he could be. I didn't think this was, he said there's no real age limit for when you can add your kid to your credit card as an authorized user.
Really?
Right. I thought it was like 16, maybe 14, right? He said with them, he said, no, there's no age limit. So like I said, this is what he told me, but I generally would go with 16 and 14 and being like, hey, this is why you have to build your business credit, your personal credit up, so that you then can put your child on it. Right? Because you can't give what you don't have. And one of the best things in the world you can give your child is a good credit score. So that when they're 18, when they're 21, right, and they can get those low interests, they can get a home, they can go ahead, you can co-sign for the right things that are income producing. Right? Then they can start that business. They can go into, right, like that type of thinking is a game changer.
Speaking of co-signing, so being a game changer, right? I know in our community, we're always taught not to co-sign for anyone. I ain't gonna lie, like even whenever I was going to like buy my first vehicle, I asked my mom and I asked my grandmother if they would co-sign for me. It's like, nah, I can't do that for you, son. So like, what's your stance on co-signing in general? Is it a no, I'm not co-signing for anything, or like what's your thoughts?
I hear you. So I would say this: there's a difference between I can't and I won't. So I know when I was going to college, right? My mother wanted to co-sign, but she couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, you do that Parent Plus loan. We got that 7,500 because she got rejected. And when you get rejected, then you get the $7,500 because they feel bad for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because they got to give you something. So, right, like, so thinking about that, for me, it's more about options. Now, I think comes with, have I given, right? So for me, it's like the person is coming to me. And if you be, let's say, like, so for me, I have children, I have 3 of them. If my child comes to me and they have they want to co-sign, the idea is like, what is it? Are we co-signing an asset or a liability?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, and me co-signing assets, like that makes sense for me. But me co-signing liabilities, we have had a different question on maybe how you're going to leverage it. So, and then to what end, right? Like, are we doing this so that we can, am I just right? Like, so that idea of a plan, that idea of having whether it's a business, having a business plan, right? That idea of execution. So for me, that's where I really go into like that type of thinking
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to co-signing. But when it comes to like my brother, he a knucklehead. Hey, big bro, you mind because he just right, he wants to use me so he can do stuff that because he didn't want to work for his business credit. But guess what? Your business credit, your personal credit shows me who you are.
Mm.
You ain't paid the last loan. So why am I going? I'm not doing that. I'm gonna do my due diligence and like, nah, man. Like I hear you. Best of luck. God bless.
And I think that's a really great point. The first point is co-signing on assets, right? Because I think it's really smart. Even if they stop paying the bills, if it's an asset, you can take control of it and make it start generating income again, and get on track. Also, co-signing of the asset, it helps you build wealth, and you're like, okay, this is me actually enabling you to stand up on your feet once again, not me just taking out the loan on the car just so you can ride around with your little friends and do whatever you want to do, right? But it's me actually saying, hey, I believe in what you got going on. I'm in a position where I can do it as well. I think you made a good point with the want versus can't. My grandmother definitely was like, I won't, but my mom was like, I can't.
Yeah,
So
and I think our whole goal is about options, right, in life. So it's
mhm.
just like being able to whether or not we're able to co-sign because we can't even co-sign for ourselves.
Mm,
And then you
that's
think
good.
about the idea, can you co-sign for your business? And that's where people come to us. And there's a way to get funding, right, with adverse and challenging business credit. Does it take a little bit longer? Yes, but we still can get you there. However, you want as many doors open as possible, and it will always go back to you cleaning up your personal credit profile. So it's
Mm.
extremely important that you get that together.
So I know you mentioned you got a few products and stuff. Sometimes I like to try to see if I can get some things out for the people. Is there
Yeah.
anything you would be willing to share? Be like, look, if you do this, if you have this current, if you're in this current standing, you would probably get funding for your business. What would that look like? Do you have anything that you can recommend to the people?
Okay. You
Yeah,
want
I
some
want the sauce.
else.
I want the
Okay.
sauce. I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see some. Trying to see if the people up in the wake around here.
Okay, bet. So if we're saying like, hey, look, I want to get some funding and we're looking at some stuff that you need to have, I would say, well, number one, we offer a product where if you have good personal credit. So let's talk about what that looks like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we're really talking about having at least 8 to 10 open positive accounts on your credit, right? And talking about what you said earlier, Jalen, with that credit mix. If you're having about we start minimum could be a 680, but really we like the over 700, but minimum 680 because what we want is to be able to get you as much funding as we can. We go ahead, your utilization. We can talk about that, but your utilization has to be under 40%. If it could be under 30, that's even better. And that's on each individual card. That's right. Like, so if you have any revolving credit, making sure that that's under 40%, right? Now, if it's under 30, that's good. If it's under 10, that's fantastic. So then when we move over is that making sure that you have some age, right? If you have at least 2 or 3 years with 2 or 3 cards with at least, right, $5,000 to $10,000 on each card. I say that because if you have a profile that kind of looks like that, we can get you $100,000 worth of funding.
Wait a minute. How much?
100,000. Now, right? Let me be honest. This is what people aren't going to tell you, is that according to like whether you're at the minimum or whether you're at the maximum, right? Like if you're at like where your credit report looks great, then we can get you that 100 in one funding round. So if you're not hearing about people talk about funding rounds, that's an issue. So
okay, go into that. You talking funding rounds? That sounds like I'm about to go get some venture capital.
Yeah. So because you are, right? We're going to now get these institutions to fund you. And the way that we're going to do that is that we're going to go through a funding round, and you can do 2 to 3 of those in a year. I prefer 2, 3 if it's needed, but I prefer 2 in a year. That gives us enough time to go ahead and leverage these things. So let me go into what a funding round with us looks like. So what we do is we do some credit stacking for you. We look at, right, based on how old your business is and you have to have an LLC, because we want to get this money under your LLC, not your personal, so it doesn't mess with your DTI, right? Your debt to income, so you can keep getting funding. So you have an LLC, we use your personal credit. That's why I talked about it so much. So that's why we can do this with startups. We use your personal credit to guarantee the funding. So that means we're going to get you about 3 to 5 inquiries. However, based on where you're at and what's going on, we might just stay in one lane. What I mean by that is that we might just work all TransUnion. What you hear a lot about is people going, oh, I'm going to go Experian, Equifax, TransUnion. But the problem is that sometimes these banks, they pull from 2 different ones. So then now if you get a bank, right, and you go Bank of America and they pull from TransUnion and Experian, but you already pulled from Experian a couple of times, right, that might mess you up. So sometimes what we do is, right, and we change it, and we, based on where we're seeing, right, as many people as we get funded, where we're seeing the banks pulling from. So now we might go all TransUnion for 4 or 5 different funding options, different institutions that all pull from TransUnion. And then what we do is in that funding round, we get you generally between 3 to 5 times your largest credit card amount. I'll give you an example. Jalen, if you have $10,000 on a credit card, generally we can get you between $30,000 and $50,000. Right, in funding. So that's why, right? But generally people with really good credit scores have like a $20,000 card, a $30,000, right? Like they have something like that. So then that allows us, it makes it a lot easier for us to get you 75 to 100,000. But let's just say we get you 40 to 50,000. Then what we do is that's not one funding round. We get you funded within 2 to 3 weeks, generally 2, but I like to say 3 because I like to underserve and over deliver, right? So so with that, after you go through a funding round with us, then we have a third-party company that comes in and they clean off the inquiries on your back end.
Wait a minute. But is this on business side or personal side?
Yeah, so I'll talk to you. So we're not running, right? In the beginning, when you have a startup, you don't have any business credit really, but we get your business credit profile set up. What we do is that with that LLC, you're going to personal guarantee it. Whenever you personal guarantee something, that means they're going to do a hard inquiry on your personal. So we do 3 to 5 inquiries on your personal. After you get the funding, you're going to see, right? And this is what I'm trying to say is like your credit score is going to dip a little bit. Now, if it's really strong, you're going to see it maybe an 8 to 10 point dip. Right? If you're already adverse a little bit and we're only able to get you but so much, you might see a bigger dip. But here's my thing, right?
You're going to have the capital.
You're going to have the capital. And then now you go ahead and you run the capital. This is why strategy is so important. If in the next 3 to 4 months you're looking to buy a house, don't do it right now. Don't do it right now. What happens is people go, they run up their credit score, right? And they run up the inquiries and then want to go purchase something.
I think that's a really, really good point. It's like, where are you at in life? Even when we speak about taxes, right? With writing everything off, like if you know that you want to go purchase a home in the next year or whatever, don't do that year. Don't do it for the next 2 years, actually, because if you're an entrepreneur, like full time, they're going to take 2 years of your taxes. So you need a plan for that. Same thing with what you're saying with like strategizing your business credit and understand what you're doing. I think that's extremely important because a lot of people aren't telling that side of, hey, this is what's going to happen once we do start to go for that funding.
Yeah. And the third thing I'll add to that is, I know when you get the taste of entrepreneurship, you want to jump. But make sure you know that you got some things set up. So I ain't gonna lie,
because it happened to me, and I'll speak personally. Like once we started to sip, it's like, man, yeah, this is good. Like I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna jump up the porch and I'm gonna go full fledged. And like business was going great for a few years, but sometimes it ebbs and flows. Like business will go up, business will go down. So like you have to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. I'm not gonna lie. One of my biggest, I'm not gonna say regrets, but one of my biggest lessons is I definitely wish I'd have learned just to purchase my first primary home before I actually jumped off the porch.
And that's what I'm saying. If you have a big purchase in mind, make the purchase. Right? It's okay. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you this: don't even jump into entrepreneurship. Make your job fire you. Because that means your business is doing so well that your full time's now your part-time, your part-time is now your full-time, and then they have to fire you because you calling out, you traveling, business is booming. Let that happen, but make sure you strategize, right? Hey, the next 2-3 years, right? When we talk about, we said it last time, having a business plan. Add you to the plan. Hey, bro, like, look, I got some things. Talk to your spouse.
I think that's another good point. Like adding you to the business plan. A lot of times entrepreneurs don't account for themselves in the expenses.
Yes.
We don't account for what we have to pay ourselves in the expenses, and you get your head buzzed that way, right? Because you account for everything else except for paying yourself.
So you bring it perfect, right? This is why. Right, shout out to my boy Roberto Rodriguez. He just always put me on from a long time ago. Pay yourself first.
Facts.
And when you think in that model, even when you have a W-2, I'm gonna pay myself first. Then what you understand is the biggest expense your business has when you start off is you. The biggest expense is you. Your lifestyle, how you think you want to live, how you think other people started to live. No, it didn't just jump out the window and it was like, oh, like this is, I'm living the life. I'm able to travel and write everything out. That's not, it's, hey, look, I got to create some sustainable income, right? That can sustain me, right? Shout out to my girl, Tiffany, right? Get good with money. It can sustain me on my noodle budget, right? If your budget is $5,000 a month, guess what? You're an entrepreneur, it's $2,500 a month now. Because the business has to sustain you. But the good part about that is that it should, if you're a real entrepreneur, it should make you hungry, right? Because when you're hungry, you got to eat what you kill. And I love it. And shout out to my boy Wall Street Trapper. He said this a while ago, right? But sometimes you gotta kill the lamb to give birth to the lion. And that's just it, right? If you're not down to eat what you kill, right? If you're not down to go out there and be like, bro, like it gotta work, right? I'm gonna get this or die trying. Like I gotta be so motivated, right? Like you can't be somebody who's if you were a bad employee, you're gonna be a
terrible entrepreneur. I said this when we first started our platform. Like who you are in your day-to-day life transfers over into entrepreneurship. If you're a person who's just running from someone telling you what to do, someone telling you, giving you a structure throughout the day, you're going to hate being an entrepreneur because guess what? Your boss isn't the person who's telling you what to do. Now it's your customers, especially depending on if you have a service-based business or a product-based business.
So look, you now you preaching.
Because I'm like if you go on service-based business, right? And one of the best examples I give is I see the ladies who are doing the braids and stuff, right? Like, but some of their stipulations, some of the things that they're requiring from people, I'm like, yo, really? Like, this is where you're running your business. Like, you can charge them a late fee, but if you come up late, there's no consequences for you. There's no repercussions. Like stuff like that. It blows my mind when people think that you can be a shitty person in real life and still be a shit and still do great in business.
There's no on-off switch, and it's interesting because I feel like business mirrors life, right? To your point, I got a friend of mine. Shout out to my boy Mike. He was just at the crib earlier. We were talking, and he got married last year, or matter of fact, 2 years ago, right? He had gotten married, and he a little younger than me, but like I had gotten married, so I'm 10 years in. And I remember he had just came. Mind you, I was talking to him about y'all because he's from Louisiana, right?
Shout out, Mike. What's up, Mike?
So with that, we were talking, and I remember we were talking, and I'm like, yo, look, I know you don't have the right lady yet, but like you got to start preparing yourself to be the man that you need to be when you meet her. Right? You can't wait until you find her to then try to act like you're going to be that guy. That's not how that works. Right? You have to create your own frame. Right? You have to make this choice yourself and start being that, projecting that, and then you'll find that.
That's a fact.
And I just think, go ahead.
No, I'll let you continue on that, Pat. I hold it.
So I'm just connecting it to business, right? So when I started dressing different, when I was going to work, when I started acting different, when I started holding myself to a certain standard, it wasn't about the job. I wasn't looking at it. I was looking past it. It was the fact that I needed to get up earlier before my job. I had to be at 9. I wasn't getting up at 8:15 trying to throw some water in my face and shoot to work. Right? Like, nah, I'm gonna get up at 5:30. Right? I'm gonna set my own tempo. I'm gonna chase the dream from 6 to 8, then go to the job, then it's not about what you do from 5 to 9, from 9 to 5. It's what you do from 5 to 9. I chased the dream from 5 to 9. Right? Burn the midnight oil, and then I started developing the habits. I started reading the books, that personal development, the skill building, right? Marketing, sales, acquisitions, systems building, right? Like these things, right? That you start to create on your way to this. But I don't want it to get lost is this. And this is, if you make the jump, right? You're like, oh, I'm making the jump. Great, right? Make the jump off the cliff and grow wings on the way down. But just understand this. It's okay to go back. Some of y'all listening right now needed me to say that to you. You're struggling as an entrepreneur, right? You got your family going through it. You feel like you're going to be a failure. It's shame. You can always go back. So one, if you're struggling right now, you can always go back. And if you're on the cliff asking yourself whether or not you should jump, because guess what? It's only a job. Jobs will be there when you're ready.
And guess what? You can also put the skills that you develop as an entrepreneur on your resume now.
Bruh, this is what I'm saying.
And so even with like going back, right? I went back to the job. Like I'm looking for another one because my last deployment got cut. But like I went back to the workplace to make sure that, hey, look, you got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You got to make sure that you're solid before anything. You got to make sure that whatever you have within is going to come out. So like if you're stressed out because you're not making men's eat and stuff, that's going to transfer over into what your business look like.
Man, listen, you hit on the head.
Like you're gonna be running around making sure like people gonna be able to tell that, like they call it sales breath, that you got sales breath. You just trying to close a deal. Like people gonna be able to tell that type of thing, right? And then
Mm.
also what it does is it puts you in a survival mind state. So sometimes you start to devalue who you are and what you bring because you now I just need to close a deal, right? I just need to do something just to keep the momentum going. And sometimes
Yes.
you're making bad choices. You're putting yourself into bad deals with the person that you know is not your target customer.
Yes. And then getting back to what we talked about, you put yourself in horrible lending because, right, what I do sometimes, right, is sometimes I'm the break, like in case of emergency, break glass. A lot of times I'm that guy. So wait, hold up. You need some money. You need some money fast. You wanted it in 72 hours, and you went and got you a merchant cash advance, so they can cover you because your money got held up at the bank because you didn't know that your payment was going to be a net 60, meaning it was going to take 60 days for you to get it, but you got people to pay every week for 8 weeks.
That's another thing, dog. Understanding how other businesses work too, like the net 60, net 30s, like, hey, sometimes it take a while for you to get the money. Like the work done, the money coming, but hey, it's in accounts receivable, not accounts payable.
No, 100%. And so it's interesting because I'm in a position now where like I know why those things happen sometimes because your money's held up because of the logistic chain, because my money held up somewhere.
Yep.
That's why it's in the paperwork. Because I don't want to front you much, right? Like I gotta verify the job was done. It's held up, right? So those things do happen. But now what happens is, but the problem is that if you did that, right, that funding, sometimes you get the funding through your personal name. And now your situation's all jacked up. However, if you keep your personal credit report clean, right? If you do a good job of it, right? And let me clean it. Let me give you just a little hack. Go on your personal credit report, right? Go to annual credit report, run it. Clear those names out you got there. Make sure you only got one name reporting. You're gonna select 4 or 5 names. You only need one name reporting. That's a clean credit report.
How I do that? What do I have to do to clear the names out? Most
Good.
people haven't even looked at their credit report before.
Yeah, so it's very simple, right? Especially with the name, you can go right online, right, to each individual bureau too. Because I get people like, oh, I did it, and I'm like, well, who'd you do it with? Oh, you only did it once. You only did it with Experian. You gotta do it all three, right? To make sure it's clean. The other part is like I got 20 different dispute letters that I be giving to people, and it's fill in the blank. I got them on Word. You fill it in, and you can send a letter out. Right now, they're going to clear that because that's actually 100% true. You only got one name, right? So then now you go over to your address. They got the last 5 addresses you lived at, and then some of y'all got 12 of them on there because y'all living everywhere. You were saying with grandma, you saying with your girl, another shorty, you were saying, right?
So not all the different women, but I definitely lived with my grandmother.
But you got all these addresses on there. I'm a bank. How you think I feel about that? That don't look like stability to me, right? Because you go, oh, right? Like you might go and no, let's clean that up. They don't want to hear like I was house hacking. They don't want to hear I was trying to find no. And then also job wise, let's clear that up. Your current job might not even be on there, right? Let's clear it up. I don't need to know what you was working at Wendy's back in 05. Right? Let's clear it up. So now, right, here's the other part. And we didn't talk about this a lot, but when we go to dispute some of this stuff, because some of y'all got some stuff you got to dispute. When we go to dispute it, guess what? They ain't got the right data no more. That problem, that problem you had 2 to 5 years ago, right? If you need to dispute it, those data points are not there for them.
Hey, that's a play.
It is. And that goes back to like, see, personal credit is too personal for me. Like it's hard to stop somebody from buying a Gucci bag while they also trying to tell them to save. That's why I don't do it no more. I got an ebook where I help people 7 ways to boost your credit score, right? Easy. And then a quick hack, one of the fastest way to boost your personal credit score. We talked about it earlier, but it's to get a secondary account as an authorized user. And then here's the hack alert. If you have the credit right over 700 and you have the a card with 20,000 to 30,000 on it, right? Let's say 20,000 minimum, and it doesn't have to be a minimum, but like let's say you got 15 to $20,000 on it, even more. But you can use that card and have people pay you to be authorized users on your card.
Hmm. That's
Now that's
not
passive income.
I was just about to say now you having passive income.
So now we done built your credit score up. Now you have right. Shout out to my guy Bounce House Poppy up in Massachusetts. We got him going, and now he got 3 or 4 people every month that hop on his authorized user.
I've heard people charging as much as $350 a month.
Oh yeah. I charge 300. I'm nice. Some people charge 500.
That's just crazy. It's like the power of leveraging your credit. Like it can go multiple ways for you, just if you make sure that you stay diligent and you stay on top of it, right? Like, how many people can say that? Oh, I just thought about making money just off of leveraging authorized users on my account. Like that's a real life play that people can start making money off of right now.
Yeah. No, so I do it now. You can get up to 8 people. I stop at 4, right? And then I have people. I get all my money up front. So I do $1,000 just to keep it simple, right? Sometimes 1,200, and then we do 3 months.
Mm. And so within these 3 months, they need to be actively looking to make whatever move they're making. Maybe they're about to purchase a house or something like that.
Yeah. So what I've started doing is at least being kind enough to do like a 15-minute conversation where I tell them to bring their credit report with them or to send it to me prior. And then I look over it and I tell them whether they're a good candidate. Because if you got repos, if you got a bunch of late payments, if you got just no credit history at all, and you thinking I can help you, but it's still secondary. Right? Because when I add you as authorized user, it's going to help your age and it's going to help your utilization. So an example I can give you is that, right? I got a card that has 12 years on it and it has $50,000.
Damn, that's strong.
And I might have $500, $400 on it. Because you gotta keep it. Because you gotta keep something on it so they don't take the credit away. Especially right now when you're in a recession, they'll take $10,000, $20,000 worth of credit away from you to give it to somebody else.
Because you're not using it.
Because credit's fake. It's not real money. It's as real as the equity in your home if you don't use it. That's why I say, like right now, if you have a house, if you don't have a line of credit out, even on your primary, you a fool. Especially over the summer when everything was up, you a fool.
So it's something my girl Ellie, shout out to Ellie. She was like, the best time to get funding is when you don't need it, is whenever everything is going great. That's the best time to get funding. You might not have to use it, but at least now you have access to it.
Because the secret is you do not have to use it. Everybody I talk to, they're like, well, what am I? The beauty of it is that you have 20 years to find out on that home equity line of credit. And if you don't pull it out, guess what?
No harm, no foul.
No harm, no. But the thing is, that play that comes and you needed that $30,000. Right? Like, just being honest. Here's the other thing is you lose your job. You got a family, right? I got 3 kids. I got a wife. I lose my job, right? That's $3,000 a month you got on your mortgage payment. How you paying that? With my, I'm gonna pay it back to myself in my home equity line of credit. Because maybe I need 4 to 5 months to get back on my feet. So that $50,000 line of credit I got, I'm a pay my mortgage with that. Once again, having that backup, having it, because what? It's fake money. Because right, what your equity was 6 months ago, and what your equity is now, are two different things. Because it's fake. It's on the
That's a
market.
fact.
It's there, then it's not there. It's not real till you use it.
All based on market value.
That's it. That's why when the market's high, you go ahead and you grab that. Like my properties, man. Listen, if we wasn't doing the cash out,
I know you
we
went
were doing the
crazy.
HELOC. Bro, what? Because at first I started when the pandemic first hit. I went straight into that 2020, like that fall. We refinanced everything for
A
lower
lower
percentages.
interest rate. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Then we started playing around with, all right, now everything went. 2021 was really like, let's grab the money and then let's sit on it.
Now, when she hit the fan, y'all got all the capital to buy up the assets.
Mm-hmm.
That's smart.
We going, and then the other part is great is that I give you an example. First house I ever bought, I bought it for $98,000. 2021, I refinanced it. I didn't do anything to it. It's a ranch. It's 3 bedrooms. It's 900 square feet. I didn't do anything to it. Nothing for 9 years. 9 years. Refinanced it. The ARV, the after repair value, well, really the after nothing value, it reappraised for $200,000.
And how much you purchased it for?
98.
Jesus.
Didn't do anything to it. Nothing. Like it is the same house. It was built in 1954. It still looks like it's built in 1950. Same cabinet, same. I mean.
So if you were to update it, what type of money you think you'd have got out of it?
So that's a good question. I probably could have went up maybe 20, 30,000, but always know that you never want to be the nicest house right on the street. So there's a cap. It was just so good that with nothing, $200,000. So what you can't do is they're not going to give you right with your primary home. They can give you up to right 80, 90% of what the home is worth. They give you 75. They gave me 75
because it's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's 140. My tenants paid it down to $72,000. I made $68,000.
Can't
now,
beat that.
And this was a specific one was like where I did cash out refi. Now I took that $68,000 and that's tax free.
Because it's a loan.
Correct. And I know because I didn't pay on it.
That's a move. That's a move, dog.
Right. And that's where it comes down to, right? But 5 years earlier, right, or 6 years earlier, if my my debt to income was at 72%, and I tried to refi a different house and I couldn't. I wanted to get into a property. I wanted to refi and grab the money to go get, and I couldn't. So my money was in the walls and I could not touch it. Why? Because first it was fake money, right? Because it was in the walls. But 2, the bank would not let me refinance because my debt to income was too high and banks are conservative and I did not know how to speak their language.
Wow.
Now my debt to income is under 7%. Because I understand that I had to move any of my debt to an LLC. Now I've been able to pay that off, but like any debt that I incur personally is really would be under an LLC for whatever amount of time I need, because it's a business. So then, yeah. And what I mean by that is that like I have several LLCs. 2 of them I do a lot of my personal stuff with, because I don't do any I'm not like writing that off. It's just about making sure that like any debt or anything I'm doing like isn't coming up.
Now that's smart. So like what type of business would you say is the best business to start if you want to do things like that? If you want to just put all of your personal liabilities in that business?
Mm. So for me, consulting, I love it. It's low risk. You get funding, you get pretty good limits. And then just start off like it just was about with business credit cards. I always just start off with consulting. Like that's like for me, like that's like my go-to. And you can make a variety of a type, but like me it was always like business consulting or some type of like educational consulting with schools. Because one of the earliest, I think we talked about this before, one of the earliest and best businesses to start is one in which you're leveraging the things that you already have access to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, so for me, like I started off being a motivational speaker, getting into educational consulting, where I just developed a skill and the skill got me paid more. And it was a low barrier entry. Right. In the beginning, when I was getting $500 to $1,000, I didn't even have a website. Right. I had some Vista print cards that I got for like $12.
Getting to it.
You feel me? But I developed the craft and then I got really good at it, which got me into rooms where then I leveraged right relationships. Because being in the room is so important. And then when you get in the room and then you show up and show out.
Mm-hmm.
Because you actually have to be world class in some of what you do. Right? Like there's something like you have to develop a skill that's eventually going to get you paid and then utilize that income, not to increase your living, but to double down into an industry you want to get into that might be a higher cost. So I like to say is that sometimes you need a starter business to get into your actual business.
That's good. A starter business. People talk about starter homes, but not starter businesses.
Yeah,
I think that's really good. Like really low risk businesses that you can just get your feet up under you with. I think more people should start going into starter businesses.
Because the goal is right. Something that I spent some time this summer at a mastermind is that mergers and acquisitions. Most people don't have a succession plan for their business. Right? When you write your business plan, you're supposed to write the exit plan too.
That's a fact.
Begin with the end in mind. What's the exit plan? Some of you are in jobs right now, don't know what the exit plan is. It's just, it's paying the bills. Right? You're going through, not growing through. Right? So I would tell you, take a minute to take a bird's eye view, take a step back and start figuring out what is it that I want to accomplish? Like what's the bigger goal? People get put off when I say, oh, okay, you're doing that. Okay, great. What's the bigger play? What's the bigger goal? I don't care if you're at McDonald's right now. Great. But what's the bigger goal? Because I met a man, right, who started off doing fries at McDonald's. Then he became the manager. This is a Black guy in the 80s. Then he became a regional manager. Then they made him an operations manager. Then he became, did you watch the movie The Founder?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. With
the homeboy Ray Kroc.
Yeah, with Ray Kroc from McDonald's.
Yes. So remember how they started working with families and him and his wife opened up their own McDonald's in Hartford, Connecticut, around Flatbush in the hood. He started on the fries though.
And he had a plan.
And they wanted their money back because they go into partnership with you with the building. He had to pay them back $200,000 in I believe it was 2 years. He paid it all in 1 year. He said, "Leo, I lived off like $20,000."
Yeah. And
he was an owner operator. He saved every penny he could, paid them back in a year, and then at the end of it, worked there for I want to say 20 something years, and sold it for like 2.1 million. And now he lives off of the residual from his investment originally. But before he left his business that was cash flowing, he bought himself a brand new Benz. He bought himself, right? And then they wind up downsizing to a really nice condo. And now all he does is travel, and I see him at church.
That's dope, dog.
Crazy. Would have never known. Took him out for lunch, right? Once again, picking the brain. Took him out for Starbucks. Had a coffee with him. We're just talking. And then he just gave me the whole rundown.
Hmm.
So what's the bigger play? It don't matter where you at. What's the bigger play, right?
It's not about how you start. It's about how you finish, big dog.
And because some people, right, you learn or you earn. I think that's something I've learned. You learn or you earn, right? Like some people you're so busy trying to get that extra $3,000, $10,000, right? When you get a job, you're busy trying to be like, you know what? I need to make as much money as I can right now, that you're not looking at an opportunity that might be paying you less, but you have more ability to scale. You have more ability to learn a skill. You have more ability to invest now and then get paid 10x later.
That's where delayed gratification really comes into play. But I also like how you just talked about maybe less time. I think you're talking to me right now. I ain't even gonna lie. I kind of caught that. But taking something where you're not getting paid as much, but it allows you flexibility. Maybe you're not as stressed at work. Maybe you don't have to travel. You're not getting paid as much, but it also allows you maybe you get off at 4 o'clock. Now you can work from 4 to 10 in your business, right? It allows you, maybe you're not working on weekends, so now you can travel and you can do whatever you need to do for your business on that weekend time, or maybe spend time with your family. That's something that you've been lacking.
But you gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you need and not be afraid to ask it, right? We are not second-class citizens. We do not have to live by default. We get to live by design. But how have you been designing it? But when you take accountability for your actions and what happens to you, then you have a different level of understanding on like strategy. But going to that part of mergers and acquisitions, if you understand that this is what this is, that's why, right, when you get the starter home, that's why like you might fix it up, because you understand the sweat equity you got put in, because
And
you
you
didn't have the
understand
money.
you're gonna get something back.
Correct. And that's going to get you money equity. But sweat equity had to start. Then it's going to get you the money equity. Now, the money equity is going to allow you then to level up. So if you're sitting here and I'm like, look, because like I'm a guy who started off, right, speaking for Turkey Dentist 10 years ago. Now, right, like I'm at the highest stages, right, with the state of Connecticut as a consultant. Right? Consulting with local school agencies, consulting with the state of Connecticut, doing work for Miguel Cardona, who is a Secretary of Education for the United States of America, right? Like I'm able to do stuff at the highest level and get paid right now from Turkey Dentist to tens of thousands of dollars on that skill I started a long time ago.
That's a bar, from Turkey Dentist to tens of thousands of dollars. I like that.
You feel me? But it's about the compound interest. Where do you have compound interest at? Is it just in your stocks and not in your life? Right? Like we had to access
that's good. Compound
right?
interest, it goes from your life. Do you have compound interest in relationships? Do you have compound interest in your habits that you're doing? Compound interest, it fall on everything.
Right. I can tell you right now, I fell off, right? 2019, I got probably in the best shape of my life. And then I fell off. Why? Because I stopped putting the work in. COVID hit,
you got comfortable.
Got comfortable, right? And I got lack of discipline, lack of routine, right? And then now, right, that compound interest has stopped. It's the same thing to your point in your relationships and in your business and the things that you're doing. If you're resting on the fact that you did a lot of work 3 years ago in your business and you're wondering why it's not looking the way it needs to look right now, right? I said I do to my wife 10 years ago, but I gotta say I do every morning I wake up. And that's compound interest. That's compound interest for our situation, right? Why our relationship works the way it works, right? Because it's hard to give up on something. It's hard to give up on someone you have so much compound interest in, right? Like you have so much invested in.
That's
that
good.
You have so much reinvested, right? So it's and that's why I'm big on like all those things being a through line in who you are.
I want y'all to think on that out there. I want y'all to think on that. Shout out to Jay Watts. Shout out to T Clark. Appreciate y'all for interacting, dropping some comments. If y'all want to say thank you, y'all can hit us up in the super chat. Say thank you that way. Just say thank you in the regular chat. We appreciate everything. Malik, this has been fire, my brother. This has been fire. We're gonna be back at it again next week. But anybody, if you are looking to get your personal credit right, I know we're gonna do something together soon. We're gonna do a workshop where we just talk about what it looks like to set yourself up to get actual business funding. So if you guys would actually like to get access to that and get on that list, get on that waiting list for what it looks like for us to, work with you, you go to blackwealthrenaissance.com/leverage. blackwealthrenaissance.com/leverage. You'll fill out that form, and then we'll keep you abreast, keep you updated on when the workshop is going to be releasing. It's going to be in April. We're going to do the workshop. If you think you are ready right now, if you are ready to go get some business funding, if you are an entrepreneur, if you have your business set up, if you have your things in order that we spoke about tonight, go to blackwealthrenaissance.com/funding. That's blackwealthrenaissance.com/funding. You can get access to, like what my guy Malik was saying, up to $100,000 worth of funding. This is for the Business Credit Builder, a partnership between Black Wealth Renaissance and You Leverage. It does cost money, but once again, you're going to get access to a program that is built to make sure that you are able to set your business up the right way to get access to funding that is going to report on your business credit so you can continue to build business credit, but also make sure that it's not on your personal credit too.
And Jen, let me add something, is that for those of you who have good personal credit, we have even other vehicles, right, that we can get you funded with. That and those vehicles outside of, right, after we get you set up in your business profile and you getting you bank compliant, we have even additional vehicles, right, to get you equipment financing, business revenue financing, SBA loans, our credit line hybrid program, right, to get you funding, right, at 0% and turning credit into cash. Now, here's another thing, is that some of you might be thinking, look, I have bad or reverse credit. Well, we can get you there, right? We can take someone with bad credit, and what we do is we build your credit, not through your social security number, but through your employer identification number, your EIN. And we build that through our 4-step program that builds you, right from having zero credit to getting you up to having cash credit cards and revolving credit. And we can get you there from between 4 to 6 months, from having no credit to having $50,000 worth of business credit, and us starting to get you into business funding rounds so that you're getting lending through your business, so that you're getting the best terms and the max amount that you can get based on where your business is at or where you are at personally, and helping you grow and scale the things that you need, right? The operating budget, that startup budget, the equipment that you need. Let's get you started. We just got some people funded recently with my team. And what I mean by my team, I mean, you have a credit advisor that locks in with you hand in hand, Monday through Friday, where you can call them, right? You get your own personal credit advisor that you can text, that you can email, who's going to reach out to you once a week with your weekly meetings to make sure that we're holding you accountable, right? So when you log in and you tap in with the team, right, and you tap in with Black Wealth Renaissance and You Leverage, just understand that our goal is to make sure that we get you funded and we get you the best possible rates and the maximum amount of funding. So with that being said, good brother, look, y'all dangerous over there at BWR.
Nah, you dangerous too, bro. And together we're gonna be even more dangerous.
Oh, man.
Hey, we're gonna lock in. We're gonna keep on doing this. Y'all stay on the lookout. every Thursday at 8 p.m. We going live. We're
Let's
gonna be
go.
hitting y'all with value and with gems. I know I didn't get to speak about some of the current topics that I wanted to go over, but we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Once again, if y'all haven't already, y'all make sure y'all go tap into yesterday's podcast episode. It is on YouTube. Just go check out Malik's podcast episode where we're going to a few more things in depth about how you can get funded, how you can position yourself. Make sure y'all go check that out. It's called Leverage Everything. Leverage Everything on our YouTube channel. Y'all have a great one.
Peace.
Peace.